Well, how we doing, guys? Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of KD Adventures. We're here in the world famous, locally known KD Adventure Bow Shop, also known as my dining room table. I like to build all my own arrows and tinker with them. Different fletchings and different point weights and insert weights and wraps, no wrap. I like to just tinker is what I'm getting at here. And so I figured I'd bring you all along while we do a little tinkering on some arrows. I've got a dozen brand new Easton 5.0s. They're in a 250 spine, cut to about 28 inches or so. I've got 8 of them that I've already glued the inserts in and things like that. I've shot through paper and whatnot to make sure I'm gonna like them. And so I figured I'm gonna fletch those 8 today. I'm gonna glue the inserts in 4 of them today, and figure what better time to bring you all along while we glue some inserts and fletch some arrows and show you how I like to build and tinker with my arrows. What we're gonna start with, I'll go through a little rundown of the materials needed. So the inserts that I'm gonna be running, they're HIT inserts, so Hidden Insert Technology is what that stands for. These actually go inside the shaft and you can't see the insert at all whenever you're done. It comes with a little insert tool, a little squaring, and a chamfering stone. I don't know if I've already chamfered and squared the ends of these, but I'll go ahead and show you again. So basically, one side of it has this little nipple, goes in there, and then just a few little turns. It doesn't need a whole bunch. You're not trying to ground it off. So that's what that's for. I like to use just high strength JB weld to glue my inserts in. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than actually buying insert epoxy or using super glue. There's a bunch of different stuff out on the market for gluing inserts in. Just do your research, figure out what works for you, what you like. This stuff works for me. I haven't had no issues with it, and it's pretty easy to work with. I got a bunch of Q-tips. I've got paper plate to mix it on. Got a little medicine vial full of alcohol. And then that whole tackle box is full of fletching stuff that we'll get into later. So start us off here. What I like to do, take one of your Q-tips, dip it down in your alcohol, and you're just gonna clean out the shaft. You want all that carbon residue and stuff. You can see that's a little bit black. You want all that out of there. Take one side, dip it down, take the other side, just dry it back off. Do that for every shaft that you're gonna put your insert in. Alright, once you get your shafts clean, this stuff you need to do equal parts of, and so there's different insert glues and stuff, so they might have different instructions on them. Just do you a little bit of a line of that. And then here's your hardener. You need to do the same amount. Just like that there. And what I like to use is just toothpicks. So get you a toothpick. So just take this stuff here and you want to just mix it all up until it's the same color. It'll turn like a gray, this JB Weld. Okay, once you get that, take your insert here. And with these HIT inserts, one side is threaded for your point, of course, and the other side is not. So one thing I didn't mention, on the back of it here, there's not a breather hole. On some of the HIT inserts, there is. If there's not that hole, you need to pull your knockout, because otherwise when you go to shove this insert in there, it'll create pressure and want to push that insert out. So take your knockout, and then all you need is just slather this thing up. About like that is how much you want on there. Then what I do, I'll take my arrow, insert it in there, and as you can see, I'm slowly twisting that shaft as I'm putting that insert in. Once you get it about halfway in like that, then just smear off that extra so that way it doesn't get all over the place. Then with this HIT tool, you just push in until it bottoms out, just like that there. Pull it out, wipe off any residual that's still on your shaft. There you go, there's your first one. So we'll go ahead, grab the next shaft here, grab our next insert, our toothpick, put your little dollop on there. I try to wipe it on about 3/4 of the insert and keep it off of the top, because a lot of it's going to smush out anyways as you go to put it on there. That's a little bit too much, but anyways, get that. And so just start twisting it slowly on your shaft whenever you're pushing in, once you get about that much left on there, then I like to go wipe off that little bit of epoxy booger. Keep twisting and pushing. Pull it out. There it is. Now one thing I like to do after, depending on your epoxy and stuff, some might take longer, some might not. Once that epoxy starts to set up and get a little bit tacky, what I like to do is I like to go back through with this hit tool and slide it in the end of that shaft and make sure that this insert didn't slide up or down, anything like that. You don't want to, while these are drying, you want to make sure that they're stored flat. You don't want them point up, point down, anything like that, because they might have the tendency to slide on you. So make sure you store them flat, let them dry. This epoxy takes 15 hours or so to get fully cured. After about 2-3 hours, then I like to stick that hit tool in there and make sure it didn't move on me. So like that, wipe off your excess. So there you go. That's how you glue in hit inserts on 5mm arrow shafts. Pretty easy, pretty simple. There's a lot of videos out there that show you how to do it. That's how I learned. So I figured I'd make one, show you all how to do it. While we're gonna let these puppies dry, I'm gonna move them out of the way. I'll show you my fletching jig, how I have it set up, everything like that, and how I choose to fletch my arrows. So the fletching jig that I like to run, it's a Bitzenburger, made 100% out of metal. You can't break the joker. It's got these different clamps on them that have, some of them are a right helical clamp, some of them are a left helical clamp, and some of them are straight. So you can see it's got this little bit of a bow to it. That's the helical. It's got different adjustments on it for your offset if you want it canted one way or another. You can set it for 4 fletch, 3 fletch. There's 2 different configurations of 3 fletch on there. But I like this joker a lot. I haven't tried any other arrow fletching jigs other than the Bitzenburger, and I really don't feel like I need to. It's a pretty good little unit. The fletchings that I like to run are these boning heat vanes. I tend to have some pretty good luck with them, and I've tried tack vanes, I've tried blazers, I've tried QTIs. All of them are good vanes. Just pick one that you like that flies good. See what you think. If it, you know, controls your broadhead, fine. If it doesn't, you know, then the glue that I like to use is this boning Fletch Tight. I've had pretty good luck with this also. Different fletching companies might require you to use a primer pen or anything like that. That's something you just need to look on the spec sheet and see what it wants you to use. First thing I like to do with all of my shafts, I'll rub them down really good with this rubbing alcohol. That cleans off any greases, any oils, anything that might be on the shaft, so that way it's got best chance of that fletching glue sticking. And you can see there's a bunch of black on that towel already, so flip it over. While these dry, I'm gonna go ahead and get my fletching jig set up here, bring you in and show you a little bit of what I got going with it. So on this Bitzenburger jig, I went ahead and I've put Sharpie marks at the top and on the bottom, and I know that's where I like to have this offset for my arrow. It's very important whenever you're fletching. It's got these different little indicators on there. It's very important when you're fletching that you put it in the same spot on that indicator, whichever one you choose. And then with this shaft, goes in there, seats in the knock. You want to dry fit it, and you want to see if you're getting complete contact with your fletching to the shaft. So you want to look down this way, look up this way, and if you're not getting it, then that's where you need to adjust your Allen screws here and get that offset adjusted right, or your clamp, whatever it may be. You want full complete contact with that vane onto your shaft. Okay, so how I like to start fletching my arrows so I know everything's got the same consistency with them. I'll put my knock, make sure it's seated all the way down inside there, and then I'll turn it to where this label is facing me directly when I'm sitting here in the chair. And then whenever you get done fletching, you're gonna have to adjust it, but most of the time that'll get it to where this Easton logo is facing up on your shaft. If you've gone through and knock tuned it and things like that, they sell a different knob for here to where you can adjust that a little bit better. I personally don't knock tune my arrows. I shoot them all through paper, and if I got bullet holes with all my arrows, I go ahead and fletch it, and I let the fletchings steer the arrow the rest of the way. So what you want to do here with your glue, doesn't take a whole hell of a lot. Get a little drop started, and I just run a slow and even bead the best I can all the way down that shaft. Stick it to your magnet, make sure it's all the way on the back, and then push it down, make sure it's seated. Take your Q-tip, and as you run it down there, I like to twist, so that way I'm not just dragging that excess glue, I'm actually pulling it and wrapping it around that Q-tip as I go. So make sure that thing's seated all the way down there on the front and on the back. And then now we just wait. I probably wait good 5-10 seconds or so. Let that glue set up, squeeze your clamp, slide it off. So once it sets, just squeeze your clamp, pull it off of there. I always wipe down my clamp so that way there's no excess glue. If you got a little bit of seepage on that side, take your Q-tip and just gently wipe up any boogers that you might have. Alright, there we have it. There's first arrow fletched up. Then what I like to do whenever I get all done, I'll come in here on the back side and I'll put just a little drop of glue on each one of those ends, on the front and on the back, and that'll just help secure those ends. That's where it'll peel up first if you have any issues with it. So there's your first one. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these jokers fletched up. Go ahead and grab you a white one. Line it up. And I try to leave a little bit, probably a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch of fletching hanging down past this jig. I don't like to bury it up in there. Take your glue. Sometimes you'll get a little dry booger started on you if you're not quick enough. But anyways, take your glue and then just a nice even bead all the way down there. Stick it on your jig, slide it all the way back to the back, and then press it down. Take your Q-tip, run it, and spin it as you go. Just like that there. It's pretty simple, guys. Once you do a dozen arrows, you'll get the hang of it, and things will move a lot quicker for you. But just take your time getting started out. Make sure your fletchings are all lined up the same this way. Make sure they're on the jig properly that way. It doesn't take a lot of rocket science to get that figured out. So then just wipe off your little bit of extra. You'll get a buildup of glue on here. And if you get it while it's fresh, you can just take your fingernail and scrape off that extra little glue booger it starts. If not, just take your razor knife, scratch that extra off. Rotate it over the next pin. And what's cool by getting you a fletching jig like this and learning how to do it so you can fletch your own arrows, you can tinker with stuff. So maybe, you know, you might have one broadhead this year, you know, that doesn't want to fly too good. And more than likely it's not the broadhead's fault, it's your arrow. So if you put, you know, you start off with 3 fletch of just blazer vanes, okay? That might not steer as good as 4 fletch of these heat vanes or tack vanes, because then you can kind of learn over time what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because like my personal experience, the broadheads that I shoot out of 2 different bows, they love a 4 fletch of boning heat vane, and that's the broadhead that I choose. That's a Magnus Black Hornet head. Sharp, tough as nails. I mean, this thing is lethal and steers really, really well in front of these boning heat vanes. If you just tinker around, play with your stuff, you'll end up becoming a better archer. You're more in tune with your gear, and you'll end up just finding what works for you and saving yourself money in the long run. Alright guys, I got all the arrows finished fletching. What I'm going to do now is on the ends of each one of these fletchings, both sides, I'm going to put just a little bitty dollop of glue. It doesn't need a whole bunch at all, just a little bitty drop on each one of them. Then I'm going to go back through with Q-tip and kind of wipe and curl it up towards the vein just a little bit. And what that's going to do is help seal up the ends of that from catching any air or shoot through a target. You know, it's going to help keep from ripping that up. So that's all it is. Just a little bitty dollop on each one of those veins. Now we're going to let these puppies dry. Well, there you have it, guys. I got a dozen shafts ready to go. These 4 that don't have any fletchings, I just got the inserts glued into them. I'm going to leave these alone for now. One of them I'll end up putting a knock in, just using it for more bear shaft tuning and things like that. But I left these few alone here just in case for some reason these arrows don't like flying with these heat veins. Then I've got a few bear shafts ready to go. I can try tinkering with a 3 fletch. I can try tinkering with a different type or style of vein, different length, things like that. As you can see here, these Eastons look pretty good once they get all fletched up. Got a nice 4 fletch on them. A little bit of a helical. I don't like a super heavy helical on my arrows. I think it's unnecessary and it ends up just having more veins tear off and not get a good adhesion to them. But either way, I think these Eastons are going to fly pretty good. At least I hope so anyways. The only thing I'm going to do different, I've got white nocks I'm going to switch out for. I like having a white knock. It's easier for me to track it whenever it's flying through the air. But either way, I'm very pleased with how these arrows turned out. Hopefully y'all enjoyed watching this video and it gives you the courage to buy the stuff needed to fletch your own arrows and glue your own inserts and start tinkering with it. It's very easy to do. It's not a complicated task whatsoever. It just takes a little bit of practice, and if you need to shave off a couple fletchings because you messed them up, who cares? Get out there and just play with it. Try some different stuff, and hopefully you'll get a little bit better in archery just by being able to tinker with stuff yourself, and it'll save you some money in the long run. But either way, thank you all for checking out another episode of KD Adventures. Hope you learned something. We'll see you next time.